All right, hey folks, so we are going to continue working on Spelljammer combat and exploration art. We're building a new ship token to include with the set that goes in the publication. So give me a moment here to check my signal. We'll go through my intro spiel, and then we'll get to work here for an hour or so. Mic check. We'll get to work here for. It sounds like I'm coming through a-okay. Good. I'm going to punch some signals across the internet for me to just get some signal lift. And then we'll dive into this with you guys. So how about I try to distract you with an intro spiel. Eep, 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 eep. Hey, my name is Phil Kearney. I create role-playing games. I illustrate them. I publish them online. And I've been focusing my attention on Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition for the past, well, since the release of Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica. I think that was back in 2017. So it's been a hot take here, building some 5e content. When Guildmaster Ravnica, the setting Ravnica, if you're not familiar with it, is one of the cornerstone settings for Magic the Gathering, the card game, which is also owned by Wizards of the Coast, and it's most famous for its 5-color mana system, where you have different types of land that provide different colors of mana that correspond with different cards that you then play into the game. And so when Wizards of the Coast created the translation of that into D&D, I thought like in 3rd edition they would have rules expansions for how color mana works inside of 5th edition, but no, they didn't, and that's a design decision, but a lot of us were disappointed, so hold my beer. Let's create color mana. I did. It's down in the description down below. You can check out all that work. They have extensive free previews. So if you think that stuff is cool, that's the same kind of idea and philosophy that we're bringing to the games that we're building here and now. Spelljammer, Combat and Exploration. It's a 107-page exploration into combat and adventuring mechanics, basically translating the combat, spellcasting, and exploration adventure chapters from the DMsGuild Player's Handbook into similar rules that can be used for fighter craft and vessels that are anywhere from like 50 to 500 foot in scale. And then adventuring and hex scrolls and that sort of like campaign stuff for up to 100 million miles in scale during overland travel, quote unquote overland daily travel. So we play test the thing. It turns out good. We then hire Adam Hancock, our editor, to help us make sure we wordsmith it smart. I then break up the document into bite-sized ideas that I feed into a Word document, and then we break up the chunks of it onto the page, and you can see like there's all these gaps in the between the art between the text on the pages that we fill with art. And so we've been here's a fun one. Here's another fun one. Let's go to the compilation page where we're showing all the vessels and fighter craft at the 50-foot scale and 5-foot scale, and we're currently replacing the artwork for the what's now, it was the flitter. If you've checked out the previous streams, it was a flitter. It's now a Warbird because I got the labeling wrong, and then I got the flavor, like the structure wrong. So I need to fix this and then update the document. It's just cutting and pasting, like swapping this guy out, but I got to do it. So this book cover we created around episode 15. You can check out our playlist here to see all of the previous 300 some odd episodes of creating this document. Like, subscribe, we got more followers since yesterday, so thanks a lot, guys, for taking interest in the work that we're doing here. And so let's get back into it. So getting the cover out of the way, here is the Warbird ship art that we have been creating here. This is the floor plan and illustration from the what is it? Spelljammer Moon of the Spider Queen. I think that's what it was in 3rd edition. So Scott Schomburg, shout out. Freaking great art, my guy. Here's how we're translating it into an overhead. It's got 60-foot wingspan, a 50-foot wingspan, and 50 feet depth. So it occupies a 50-foot by 50-foot space. Or at the 50-foot scale, it'd be a 1-by-1 space that it would occupy. So we have been, let's see, we've been building the wings. And we have, here are the deck plans without the wings. So there's our black and white. And then the weapons that go with it, the harpoon flingers, ballista, a Spelljamming Helm, and Eldritch Cannon in the nose. So these are Eep, Op, Orp, Ah. There you go. So that's what the silhouette icon version of it looks like for people that are printing in black and white and don't want to exhaust their computer. You can laser print that, no cost, no problem. It's just black ink. The floor plan is, or the deck plan. Get to the deck plan. There it is. It's also just black ink art. Easy for you to print out. And now we are working on the color version. So let's stitch that shut. Profile, deck plan, color. There we go. So color is here. Let's conceal the gear. And where's my wing? There's my wing. All right, let's learn from our elders. Okay, cool. So good point. Let's see. Oops. May my pixels flow smoothly today. That shall be my prayer. I can imagine elves growing these things, the ships up on these massive racks, and just resin from trees dripping down a loose frame, like a bunch of strings and wires set up that lets the amber drip down from the whatever world tree it is that they're using to build these on, like their fruit hanging from just a colossal 1 mile tall tree. Or Jesus, if you're going to be the size of an apple on a tree, it'd have to be a 100, like a 10 or 100 mile tree. These things are just insignificant. And yeah, it'd have to be a 100-mile tree. So this is like a 500-foot space would be 1,000th scale, or like 0.1%, which feels like, would a tree be 1,000 apples tall? That doesn't sound unreasonable. If an apple is 4 inches tall normally, now it's 4,000. What is the math on that? My brain isn't working so good this morning. 4,000 inches divided by 12 in American equals 300 feet. That's a big fucking tree. So yeah, the 1,000th scale is probably pretty solid there. So it'd have to be a 10-mile tree that they would grow these on, and then it has sap that leaks. And then the sap drips down onto the lines that they tether, and slowly grow the ships by angling this sap into formation that they want. And then when it's done, it's its own plant. And then you awaken it so it has sentience, so you can order it commands directly as a commander without having to worry about whether the humanoid pilot that's on board is going to mutiny or not. It's just the ship is loyal to you over any bipedal creature. I also like that. Living ships, when a ship is when a creature is built into a ship, the creature like the living ships with the treants growing out of them, the treant automatically is considered a pilot and is always attuned to the or focusing on the spelljamming helm that is anchored into its structure. And you can have either a wooden frame awakened or one of these living crystal type ships. They can be awakened. You could, if you built a wooden frame, I mean, you could just say that you can awaken metal, but that's inventing additional content that doesn't necessarily have to be invented that way. We could just limit it to say that the metal ships have a wooden frame, and the wooden frame is living, and the metal exterior shell is what's is armoring and basically like literally armor for the creature. So that would kind of imply that heavy materials are like warrior type of NPCs, while wooden and crystal frame could be like experts or even spellcasters. And those are the three types of sidekicks that are in 5th edition. So enough said. But yeah, living ships that are the living ships. That's going to be living ship sidekicks. That's going to be a supplement that we do. Since we have fighter craft that are as small as 20 feet in size, it's essentially similar to the Drake Warden having a dragon that it can be summoned on command, except that these fighter craft are a lot more fragile. So you have to constantly sacrifice your own hit points to keep them from being destroyed. And that's where the fun and the balance comes in. That whatever can kill your characters can kill your ship. And your characters can prevent your ship from being destroyed by sacrificing their own hit points while they're at the helm. And so that means your team has to eat up resources, keeping the pilot alive while they take damage to keep the ship from being destroyed. So that everyone isn't stranded in space and suffocates. So at low levels, your ship defends you. At high levels, you defend your ship. Because once your resources flip-flop like around 9th level, it becomes you become more powerful than what the ship is. Like you have more endurance than the ship has itself. So you have that warding bond effect with the ship that you're piloting. And when you awaken the ship and it becomes a sidekick, then it has its own, the sidekick portion has a stack of hit points on top of what the frame of the structure of the ship itself has as well. So you can help keep your ship alive by awakening it. Because, it grows in experience as well, and as it goes on other missions, it accumulates renown and becomes a higher rank creature or a higher rank vehicle that is able to have better die rolls for itself. Then you can create like ballista minions, little animated siege machines that run around on deck. We have the rules, all the rules for this stuff, except for the sidekick mechanics. Everything's already in the book. I feel like I can bond this down. So me doing a tear out is just bringing particular attention and expanding on that idea. Just let this flow in. Oh, meticulous. I hit save because I saw my screen flicker. That always terrifies me. Let's go look at the compilation page. I like to take a look at the Sarmoth occasionally. Just get an assessment of where I'm at. Okay, I see what's going on with that. I want to keep the spine here because I want to make a slashing weapon out of this portion of the wing. Which means that stays like that. This can afford to flesh out. There we go. Hey there, Timely Timer. What you doing? Telling me what time it is? Thank you. Yeah, it has been 20 minutes. A little Timely Timer tells me every 20 minutes that it's been 20 minutes. So I can keep an eye on the time. I have 100 minutes this morning. And that's 20 of them. Yeah, 17 minutes, right. So when the fifth one pops, it'll be 7:57 here in Seattle, and it'll be time for me to go to my day job. So I'm going to be back. I'll be back at lunch today, in about 5.5 hours, like around 1 o'clock. That's when I put in my hour lunch here, and I jump on stream, and we're going to finish off the magic selections for each of the 4 classes. And assuming we get through that expediently, we'll just spend some extra time on the action economy tech. It was starting off as a modified 5th edition campaign to be sped up using some BX mechanics for combat, and it's quickly escalating into an entirely new role-playing game, which I did not anticipate, but like 90% of the mechanics are resolved at this point already, and boy, that was fast. So my table gets to play test it for however long they're willing to play test it, and then I'll publish it. So almost there. We're almost done with this wing. Please be praised. Thank you. There we go. That feels pretty good. See a little blemish here. I want to clean up. There we go. That feels pretty good. Cool. So we have that. Wings. What's going on here? Why do I have 2 copies of that? Huh. Huh. All right. Well, I mean, whatever. Let's just grab it up and keep going. So, there's that. Drop that out of the way. Let's go check our reference here real quick for comparison. I see you. Okay. Bum, bum, bum. Bum, 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 bum. Do that here, keep that clean. Hey, some text, what's up? Coco, what's up, my guy? We're sculpting some wings. Any luck, I'll have the hyperlinks for the table of contents resolved tonight off stage, and then maybe by tomorrow have all of the reference notations inside of the document completed. At that point, if I can accomplish that by tomorrow, at worst by Thursday, then I will be open to start importing the excuse me for a second. Something's weird with my teeth. Weird. All right. Sorry, there was something weird going on there for a second. Yeah, so I'm doing pretty good. Making progress. With any luck, we'll be importing art into the document and have that done by Saturday. Where are we at on our timeline? This is Tuesday. So yeah, with any luck, we'll have all the artwork imported into the document by Saturday, and then doing product, like dropping all the tokens into folders for the zip file to merge with it. And so let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's we're at D6 plus 5 days till it's published, and that means anywhere from basically the 19th to the 25th is where it's going to publish, and I'm okay with that. That feels pretty good. But we're in the spiral now. Everything always takes longer than I want it to, and even the components of what I want to get done take longer than I want them to get than I want them to take. But we are really running out of things to do before this thing publishes. When you run out of stuff to do, that's when you publish it. so, you know, cheers. And regardless of where we're at, starting on Monday, we're going to be doing Eberron tokens in the morning. So like the artwork that I do on Mondays and Thursday nights, like last night, we'll be doing that here in the morning, which used to be how it was. Back before the Spelljammer book, I actually started making that adventure. And then Spelljammer came out, and my team agreed it was okay, or understood, maybe didn't agree so much, but understood that I was going to prioritize this project because of the timeliness of Spelljammer. Lo and behold, like 18 months later, fuck off. There we go. That feels good. All right, cool. So now we can get into this. How's my ink? Looks good. How's my... Everything is lined up. Okay, cool. So let's start... and use this as my reference. PDFs can easily zoom in to this level. Hold on real quick. Hold my beer. I'm going to export this as a PDF real quick to prove my point. It's page 11. So let's go to LTA, vocab, interior pages. Done. Equipment section. 11. Current page. Document. Blip, blip. Blip, blip. Pop over to PDF real quick of this page specifically. There, as a PDF, I can get super in close here. So this is as close as I can get in a PDF. It won't let me zoom any closer than this, which is ridiculously close. It's closer than it needs to be, but that's why we put in the work to make the pixels. So I can stop using this zoom as a reference. Zoom out a bit here. We can use this instead. Where's my grippy tool? What, no grippy tool? Huh. I could swear there was a thing that you could do to... Anyway, well, there's a table of contents. That's cool. And let's zoom out. Yeah, looks fucking pretty. All right, stop geeking out, Kearney. You got work to do. So this is why we were here. We wanted to look at how these wings work. Understood. So right now I'm just roughing these in. I want to have a blade along the edge here. Kind of like how this arrow here has a helm, a harpoon flinger, and then number 3 is referencing a slashing ram. So this has the edges of this arrow ship is sharpened, so it can do slashing attacks as it flies by enemy ships. So similar to this has slashing rams hardened along the edge of its wings, so that it has a melee weapon attack as well. So I want to put a razor blade along the inside here. Concerned about being too large, taking away the delicateness of the wings, so I need to stay towards the tail for this blade effect, I believe. I'm making it up as I go along, you know? I just know that I want this to have a slashing ram. That was the thing that was missing from the flitter, and this needs it. Flitter has a 15-foot, or as a 20-foot little ship with an eldritch cannon mounted to it as a little gunner. That's okay, but this is large enough. It's got enough bulk that it can actually engage in some physical combat. Which we'll have to look at. What am I trying to say? The Blade Singer. We'll have to look at the Blade Singer subclass. And once this is published, we can start exploring the ideas of subclasses to lean into the different mechanics that we present in this book, like the idea of a siege, like the artillerist, artificer doesn't need a new subclass for this. We can just offer additional infusions, so that the turrets that the artillerist is capable of summoning can do siege damage as we list in this book. So I think they do damage equal to a harpoon flinger right now, and so it's easy for us to translate those turrets into mounted and then eventually siege weapons. Basically, giving them a mobile eldritch cannon is basically what it comes down to. These things don't do stupid amounts of damage on their own initially. At first level, they scale from 1d8 to 5d8 damage as a cantrip, like force damage, and that's it. But you can dump spell points or spell slots into ramping up the damage that they deal, d4, d6, d8, d10, d12, on spell slots 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. Hey, so as close as you can get without getting your eyes wet. I've never heard that term. That's great. I love it. Here's our razor blade. Needs to be. I gotta have a natural arc there for those things to sit. I need the outline there to help distinguish it from a white background. The turtle ship has blades on them too. These fins, they can swat. You can do razor blade stuff with the fins here. You can see they have edges along them as well. And here's a good example of just a mild edge. So I don't have to kill myself on overextending these things. That feels like a good edge. So I can then take this and put it in a separate layer. It's technically a weapon that we've built here. Blade. And crystal. Now we can build over that. There we are, back on track. Let's look at our reference point here again to keep the crystal pattern in mind. See, it's on a separate layer, so that doesn't matter. I don't want it to be too I don't want the pattern to be too repetitive, but it needs to be identifiable, right? Thank you, Timely Timer. How did I do these outer edges? Okay, so I put a line down it, basically like this. Then we can knot up around here. Too deep. Let's go like that. Too big. Ooh, let's do that. No, don't like it. Don't like it. I'm fine with the razor being back here on the end. That seems pretty cool. But I am not liking the duplication on the front edge. It doesn't feel right. Urgh. Ow, that's what's going on. Cut. Paste. Merge. There. Coco, what you got going on these days? There we are. Ba-ba-ba-doo. What's that Klingon staff sword sort of thing called? Like a fuck, I had it. It just disappeared. A bandith blade or something. Anyway, this reminds me of that. Meow. Hey, MTG, yo. I run a neural network to generate cards. What? Wait a second. What? What are you talking about? Magic the Gathering project run a neural network to generate cards. Like you're making like you're generating new types of cards, like AI helping you dream up new cards, or I don't know what the neural network is. If there's something you can post, put it in the Discord, because I love the MTG. I lament putting the Martial Powers project on hold for the next for the past couple weeks, but I only have so much bandwidth. So once this is out the door, that'll also mean that the Spelljammer Eberron campaign will be up and running, and then I'll have more design time during lunch to continue building the MTG Rubble Belt Hexcrawl playtest campaign environment. Bantha Blade? I don't know what they're called. I'm sure Klingon lore nerd will eventually find this and correct me. Cool as fuck. The AI is trained on the entire data set of magic cards, and then I can request it to create new cards. Right on. Yeah, it makes them very right on. Yeah. Super fun. In the as far as like AI, here's my stance on AI and artwork. So anyone that's out there that gives a shit and curious about my opinion, here we go. I would love to have an AI sidekick that ran around inside my Photoshop and learned my style specifically over time, and then was able to use a predictive model to do like how would Phil do a mountain here, and then do a mountain. I would like to have a data set that doesn't rely on other artists to create it, so it's 100% dedicated to what I do. And I don't know if that's it's definitely not possible at this stage in the game. But I think if the technology continues moving forward, we'll probably have the ability to do our own customized general learning tool that will be able to pick up on our art style. And at that point, I'm going to feel comfortable using AI as part of my own work, because it wouldn't be like the technology is getting trained on artists that are better than I am, whether we like it or not, and that's going to happen. And right now, the disruption to the art industry is not liking that it can happen at all. And but we're going to get past that stage, and I'm just choosing not to participate and use AI for artwork until it gets to a point where it's not stealing from other people, that it's smart enough that I can just build, like I said, off my own style. So when I run my AI, it'll just be using, it'll be my style and only my style, with whatever weaknesses and strengths that has. So if I go through and I want to render out a background, it's like, yeah, fill this in. Pardon the pun, it'll do it the way that Phil does. So I think that would be an ethical use of AI in art without ever having to worry about, are you plagiarizing somebody else or not? But you have to plagiarize a bunch of people for it to get smart enough to do that. So as long as corporations keep doing it, there's a lot of world governments that aren't America that are fine with AI ganking other people's art styles and learning from it as part of the collective contribution to being human in the first place. I know that's very much a more Eastern approach to individual expression, but as an American, I know I operate under a lot of privileges of perceived freedoms that a lot of other nations don't. But if we look at it from if we were to look at humanity as just one species of many, Starship Troopers, Robert Heinlein, and like CCP to a certain point have it right in that we're in it for the species. Like, Americans aren't into it for the species, they're into it for themselves. Like, American psychopaths and corporate greed and stuff goes a long way to be able to gather resources to be able to accomplish great things. The only problem is that the great things that are being accomplished are self-serving, or individual, are serving individual interests of the person that accumulates it. And from the Western ideal, that feels fair. If one person is able to accumulate vast wealth and they want to apply that vast wealth to going to space or rebuilding bridges or building fembots, it's their decision what they want to do with that resource. But from a more Eastern perspective, you accumulating all that wealth makes you an even more valuable asset to the collective, because you're capable of harnessing those resources into something useful, which is, as a species, something that we need. And so there's going to be a point, I believe, where the sense of collectivism is going to override the self's desire for, like, people that accumulate that much wealth are kind of sick. They can't stop themselves. They have an obsession with accumulating, which again is a very valuable resource, is a very valuable trait when you're attempting to harvest resources. But it's their coveting those resources, not wanting to share them with others, because having that wealth is a demonstration of their success in the wild environments of becoming a more valuable person in comparison to others, which is where that competition drive comes from, and having a hierarchy of, I am more worthy of attention than you because I am capable of accumulating more resources for you to make use of. But when you don't let someone else make use of those resources, all you're doing is creating envy. So that it breaks down based on how selfish the person that's creating the resources is. It no longer becomes admirable, it becomes covetous. It's like if you can build a multi-billion-dollar corporation, but you don't do humanitarian stuff with that, then you are self-defeating the spirit that was put into you to be able to create that sort of drive. You're misapplying a gift. Personal philosophy, of course. Like America used to have like a 90% tax rate on anything above like $10 million or something. I don't know the exact dollar amount, but it used to be you would get massive taxation after you hit a certain wealth level because you've already taken care of yourself. And the greediness in the people that are capable of doing that has, through lobbying, influenced away that taxation. And so it used to be that you, like the Rockefellers and JP Morgans, etc., that are amassing this massive, this huge amount of wealth, were had high esteem in society, that were, you know, the aristocracy of America through industry, because so much of the nation got built off of the taxation of the wealth that they produced. Like bridges were good, Rockefeller Center, etc., whatever. It's like all these, like the reason you would give names to these things to rich people is because of how much of their taxation went into producing it. It was a way to honor and homage them. They want the cake and they want to eat it too. So you can't have them both. So we still covet the wealth and the richness of people that can do that. But we haven't built in the self-discipline of knowing why it's valuable to be able to accumulate those resources in the first place. Hey, look, it's Philosophy with Phil Day. Cheers. Why the hell am I talking about this? I was originally talking about what I would use an acceptable AI model with. Oh, that's right, because AIs are basically automating that productivity. It devalues data collection in individuals. Like you won't be able to amass wealth by being able to accumulate information and algorithms, and being able to parse out variants of data sets is going to become a free commodity that anyone is going to be capable of tapping into. And so the glory of being an individual creating wealth, I think, is going to, I believe that is going to go in a way of a sort of fascist populism, that if it's done correctly, and although I doubt it will be done correctly, it would be a means of celebrating somebody's ability to create new wealth or new infrastructure or new means of developing something without necessarily having to have like billions of dollars in your name attached to be able to give you clout. It's status is what these inventors and strivers are looking for. They want clout. Hey, what's up? So the fun thing about AI Run is that it came out like 10 years before ChatGPT, and all this AI art happened. It's not trained on art, only text, and it doesn't understand language. Sure. And its predictive model, it writes one character at a time, and each character is just prediction based. Okay, fine. And 3, has issues with gray, has no issues with gray areas. Huh, interesting. Right on. If you're talking about your own thing, I ain't scrapping on you at all, man. I don't have a problem with that. Like fan content and for funsy stuff, I've never had a problem with AI of any sort. Like using AI to help you flesh out adventures and stuff, I'm fine with that. I personally don't need it because I built up the creative muscles in my brain to be able to generate that stuff pretty fast on my own. Maybe not 500 versions of it, but I can only run one adventure at a time. It's just it's like I used to carry 20, 30 phone numbers in my head at a time, and now I have like 3 because the technology took away the need for me to be able to be really good with memory, and you just automatically default. Like people that are on respirators, if they're on respirators for a long time, their body hates being taken off the respirator, because your body always resents when it has to exert effort to survive, because that's against the very nature of the body's one of its main goals is to maximize resources that it takes in without having to expend them, which again is a kind of a sidelong look at ultra wealthy people. But it's just how the human body, it's just how human nature works. If you can do something, if something can take away the need for you to apply effort towards a task, then the body wants you to do that thing. Whether it's healthy for the organism as a whole or not, it's what it wants. It's what it's programmed to do. Because everything used to be so fucking difficult. We have to chase this elk for 3 days so we can get a goddamn meal. So let's just get going. We'll catch it eventually. The sooner we can catch it, the sooner we can head home. But that's a nomadic hunting culture for you. As soon as they settled, they didn't have to walk as much. So agriculture was a big improvement. But now, if you're going to do any hunting, it has to be within range of where your house is, because now you have a house. Because you're going to be in one location forever. You can't just get up and run away from critters and find a better area when the wolves come in. You have to now build a structure to defend yourself from wolves, because you can't leave. And the wolves know it, and they're camping you. They're farming your children. So now you have to find a way to defend your children from a known location where you basically create a spawn point for yourself, for predators in nature to be able to find you reliably when it's time for them to gather more food. So you have to start creating structures to prevent them from walking in and eating your child, because they know they're going to be there this morning. And that was the start of it. Agriculture is the start of humans becoming lazy creatures. Would I want to go back to the old way? Logically, maybe there's a high level of spiritual alignment that comes from being on the road constantly and having to evolve your awareness of your environment to be able to survive. But that is a lot more effort than just calling Uber to bring me a burger. That is how humans are designed to work. How can we figure out a way to make this less effort? How can we expend less resources achieving the same goal? Like 10 years from now, I imagine I'll just be like, yeah, do this wing. Like, here's some idea. Like, do this for the wing. And then, like, click, 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 crack. It's done, you know? And that's just, there's already tools inside of Photoshop, like the gradient tool, right? I don't have to sit here and do this, and I don't have to, like, smudge this down into a gradient so it's smooth flowing. I can just do a gradient tool that does a cascade, but I don't personally like doing that. But at some point, I'll be willing to do that sort of thing. Maybe I won't. Maybe I'll forever just enjoy the craft of doing it myself. The thing is that I'm far enough along in my life that I'm never going to really see the long end result of this technology development. And by the time it gets to the point where it could be useful, I'll have already developed the skills personally to physically do it myself without probably much of a difference in turnaround time. Like, I personally can't really call it art if I said, hey, computer, make me like 30 types of ships. Instead, it's like, here's an idea I have for a ship. Render out the details like this, and like I do like a partial, like this partial model that we're building here. Like this is like where I would consider once AI gets good enough to do it, be like, take this and run with it. I want to start working on the floor plans for the top deck. I don't want to still be doing this. Can Sidekick, can you finish rendering this out for me? Like, that would feel like an acceptable use of AI. But again, it'd be trained specifically on my own art style. So it'd be like Phil.0. But building something like that is a mega specialized skill that I am not willing to invest in learning how to do. But once I can just take it out, once I can just buy it for $10 a month or whatever, have a subscription to it, I would absolutely consider investing in that. I know that's what Photoshop's working on. I know Adobe's working on that, so I'm okay with it. So, if a random creature is just floating around in space, what sort of damage do they take from a ship hitting them 10,000 miles? The maximum damage that a creature that's smaller than 50 feet can take is 20d6 of damage at the and that's after 200 feet of falling damage. So you can't the amount of damage you're capable of, here I'll show you, the amount of damage that you can take is based on the size of an object that you are, and it scales up, everything scales at magnitudes of 10, but this is no different. So let me get down to that page specifically. Oh, I went way too far. How are we here? Making repairs, spell casting. Let's get through the spell casting chapter into exploration, movement. Here we go. Object size and hit points. So you have solid objects that are made of light material, composite materials, or heavy materials. Heavy materials are like stone and metal. Light objects is like crystal, ceramic, and wood. And then composition is something in between, either like a mix of metal and wood, or like bone, chitin, shell. That's like a space between metal and like fibrous wood, is that middle composition. So this is the amount of hit points that like a solid 5-foot block of wood has 1,000. Like you can see here, a 5-foot area of stone is described in the Dungeon Master's Guide as having 30 hit points per inch of thickness, which is approximately 2,000 hit points per 5-foot cube. So solid objects like asteroids, moons, and planets increasingly scale hit points based on the size of the object. So a 5-foot block of stone has effectively 2,000 hit points, while composition and like wood has significantly less. Then you have hollow objects that are shells, and at a certain degree, creatures are considered to be hollow objects. And then you have hybrid objects, which could be like Zorn and elemental, like para-element, like creatures that have elemental aspects, like gargoyles, for instance, could have massive amounts of hit points as a hybrid model. This is like a stone structure, like a tower, for instance, like a fortified wall or tower per 5 feet would have 100 hit points, as opposed to a shack, like a tent. A 5-foot tent might have 10 hit points, right? So you have these different scaling factors, and then it scales up in magnitudes. So this is how you're tracking hit points, right? So a 50-foot creature, like a basic commoner, would have up to 10 hit points. Might have less. It could be a D10 here instead of just a flat 10. But I'm just dealing in absolutes here to keep things simple. And then so we have colliding objects. For creatures, this is referring to falling. For ships, this is referring to as crashing. When a ship crashes, a pilot makes a DC 15 dexterity saving throw, having the damage on success. The amount of damage taken by an object in a collision is determined by the size and materials of each object and the distance traveled before collision, as listed in the table below. So here we have collision. So we have scale of distance is d6 per 10 feet, up to a maximum of 20 d6 at 200 feet. That's normal falling rules. for a creature that's up to 50 feet in size, like a dragon, for instance, like a gargantuan dragon. It takes d6 per 10 feet falling up to a maximum of 20 d6 at 200 feet, or 5d6 per 50 feet of distance. So if you're being hit by a spelljamming ship going 10,000 miles, that ship is effectively moved more than 200 feet when it collides into you. It's going to deal 20d6 damage to you, and there you go. But if the ship, like here, okay, so for example, if a pilot flies a dragonfly ship, a 200-foot hollow object, 1,000 feet, crashes into a 3-mile asteroid, a solid object, which is a 3-mile island, a 3-mile rock, which is up to 10 miles in scale, to destroy a group of mind flayers. So if a pilot flies a dragonfly ship and crashes it into an asteroid to destroy a group of mind flayers, which are medium-sized creatures standing on it, the mind flayers are creatures less than 50 feet in size, taking 10d6 per 10 feet, or 1,000 feet. Or so, there we go. Okay, great. So mind flayers are creatures less than 50 feet in size, taking d6 per 10 feet, or 70, maximum of 20 d6 damage. A dragonfly is hollow, 50 to 500 feet in size, in taking d6 times 10 per 100 feet, or 350, because there was 1,000 feet distance. It's a division of that, so it's 20 d6 at 2,000 feet, so it's d6 times 100 feet. The mile is d6 per 1,000 feet. 10 miles is d6 per 2 miles. It's all just scaling off of falling. The dragonfly is colliding with both the mind flayer and the asteroid they are standing on, while the mind flayers are only colliding with the ship, because the mind flayers are already on the asteroid. The mind flayers take 70 damage, potentially killing them, while the dragonfly takes 350 damage if the pilot fails the saving throw. This is enough to potentially destroy the dragonfly ship as well, but it's all superfluous damage to the 3-mile asteroid that you collided into. So does that make sense? Like that dragonfly, like a person falling to the ground isn't damaging the ground, because the 5-foot block of area that person hit has 2,000 hit points. You could potentially damage that 5-foot area by the 20d6 damage that you hit it on impact, but that's only going to be about 5% of the damage that 5-foot block of stone takes. So you're going to dent it, maybe. But if you look at a 100, like a 50-foot block, that's going to have 20,000 hit points, and your 70 points of damage from falling isn't going to do literally anything to that 50-foot area of ground that you impact. But if you take a 50-foot block of stone and you throw it at a spelljamming ship, that at the 500-foot scale is going to have at most 1,000 hit points, then you're going to be hurtling a very solid object to like a trebuchet stone, for instance, would have would probably have like around, it's not a 5-foot block that a trebuchet is throwing. It could be like half of that or a third of that. So like maybe it has 700 hit points. So that trebuchet stone takes as much damage to destroy as a 500-foot scale ship takes to destroy comparatively. It just depends on what you're hitting it with, right? So there you go. Does that hopefully that makes sense? But yeah, that's how that would work. You're just floating in space, you get hit, you're effectively falling at 10,000 miles per hour, but the maximum amount of damage that you can take on impact is 20d6. That's going to kill most things in the game, unless it's so powerful that it can survive that, like your characters. But that's the kind of crap your character's supposed to be able to survive, because you're a high enough level character to take a 100 hit point hit. Anyway, hopefully that was an easy explanation for you. But it allows you to do things like throw moons at other people, right? And deal damage at a cosmic scale. So you can start creating creatures that are 7,000 feet in size and have a meaningful damage scaling to interact with them. Because, like, for example, a fly. How do I word this? The smaller an object gets, the less physics, like a momentum physics apply to them. Like an ant can literally be blown 500 feet in the wind, and it'll land, and it'll still just be able to walk away. It didn't take 5,000 feet of falling damage, because the creature is so small that it drifts through reality a little differently than what we would be falling. Like air resistance is different for creatures like of our size than they are of creatures of this size. So there's like the scaling effect that makes distance and impact less meaningful. If you're being hit at something at 10,000 miles per hour, it can't do more damage than just terminal velocity speed anyway. And we already know that terminal velocity speed for a human is 20d6 damage after 200 feet of falling. You can't hit them any harder than that. They're already at terminal velocity. So it doesn't matter how big a thing it is that you hit them with. At that point, it's just you're basically falling to that object and taking your falling damage. I didn't see a need to... there was rules in 2nd edition about it capped out at 20d6 damage also, if I recall correctly. But then they started having a wind friction, like d4 per 100 feet fallen, as like atmospheric, like burning up, like atmospheric friction, I believe is what it was. But that's a level of depth that you don't really need, because it wasn't that you're falling farther so you're taking more damage. This was them adding atmospheric, that entry, reheat on entry. It wasn't just like if you're already at the top of a mountain and you fall, you don't take that extra d4 per 100 feet damage. That was strictly for burning up on entry, like to simulate asteroids being destroyed upon entering orbit. That's just a degree of realism I didn't want to include, even though it could technically work. This is another example of these mechanics can be integrated into any other system that you wanted to. If you're still playing 2nd edition using atmospheric re-entry damage, then have at it. This doesn't prevent you from doing it. In fact, this might actually provide you a better means of scaling that sort of stuff based on the size of the rock that you're dealing with. I'd pat myself harder on the back if I could, but I'd probably break my arm. Well, that might be a fun little video to do, right? Talking about collision. Did that make sense? If that made sense, then I'm doing a good job. Oh, I get it now why I had those extra layers. So that I could erase at the edges to have this curve effect going in without getting rid of the original pattern. That makes sense. Phil, you did it right. Good job. Good job, Kearney. Good job. Over here is looking a little shabby. Let's fix that up. And we'll almost be done with this wing. That's better. Less linear. I always want less linear with these wing builds. Almost there. There we go. That feels pretty good. Here, trim that down. Trim that down. There we go. How are we doing on time? 7:30, we still got 20 minutes. Cool. Perfect. All right, so let's duplicate this layer. And then we're going to take like an eraser here with like 20%. Take about 20% off there, Squirrely Dan. See, it just fades in. It's so pretty. I love how that works. Pull some of that back in, and we'll take 10% off right now. There. Now I can duplicate these layers. Well, I don't know why that went wrong. Something went goofy. All right, there's that. Oh, the blade, of course. The blade. Durr. That's why everything went weird. Okay, so we'll do that, and then we're going to duplicate this. And now we can flip, transform, flip horizontal. See, that's automation right there too. Just being able to duplicate that and push it over to be perfectly mirrored. That is. I can't shit on machines doing stuff because I just did that. Let's see. Here's this. Here's that. No, that's not what I want to do. Color. That's where I want to be. Cool. Okay, great. So the wings are done. Next part is oh, we already have wings. I don't need to do that. Let's do it like that. There. So wings are done. What are we going to call this? Body. Cool. Up to date. Fuselage. All right. So that was how the fuselage was built before. So I want to the same color throughout the structure. Now we're going to call this body. There, we can start building on top of that. Let's see. What happens if I press this button? There we go. How do we do? Okay, I see how I did it. I had to remember how I did it. I guess I could go and check my own work. But what I want to have happen is, I can use a separate layer here. %. That, and then it's like a basketball. I have to make something aesthetically pleasing. So let's go like this. The curve into the structure, like that. Get rid of that. We can build that out like this. That'll look good. This means I can build on straight like this. Basically like that. only have to build half of it. So I'm just going to duplicate it and flip it. I'm a dirty tech cheater. There was a, I don't remember what it was. It was like a video comment of some sort. It was just a YouTube video of some sort. I don't remember what the actual subject matter was, but the comment was at some point they were talking about statues and different sculptures and stuff that they're finding in Persia or whatever, and that they're saying that they're far in old Egypt. It was far too advanced. The level of precision and symmetry in the statues that they're unearthing, that they're too symmetrical. It would be virtually impossible for them to be done by human hands because of how precise they are. It's unrealistic to think. Like, you have to consider what kind of technology were these people actually using to create these results. But Da Vinci is reported of being able to do a perfect circle free-handed. And that's how he got the gig to do the Sistine Chapels. Like, why should we choose you as an artist as anyone else? And he just took a piece of paper and he just did a perfect circle in one go. It was perfect. Because he trained himself to have that level of eye-hand coordination. Just like I used to have 30 phone numbers in my head, and I now only have 3 of them. I am 1/10 of the capacity that I used to be at retaining information because of the technology that we have. Would it not be surprising that modern day sculptors would look at something, and unless they have a massive level of skill and dedication to their art, that they would think it'd be almost unfathomable to have a smooth, accurate symmetry in the statues that they are observing? It might be beyond their means to appreciate or understand how is that even possible. Like, that is a distinct possibility that has to be taken into consideration. Like, it could just be that we're dumber than we used to be. That's what the Krishna would tell you. If no, it was God, what was it? Zoroastrianism, I believe. One of the really ancient Indian religions, if I'm not mistaken, had claimed that humans are like, the more humans that are on the planet, the more diluted our essence becomes, the less intelligent, strong, fast, capable, intelligent, perceptive we become, because we're diluting the essence of humanity across more and more creatures. So our basically, like, our psychic resonance is being output to mass quantities instead of remaining centralized, and each individual is more massive, is more powerful when there's less individuals. The more individuals we put on the planet, the less powerful they become. And I wonder if there isn't truth to that. It used to be a lot more difficult pushing people around and getting them to do what you wanted to do. People used to be very independent and didn't need you for anything. They don't need utilities. It was that TV show, 1923, that was an expansion. That was like a prequel to Yellowstone. I don't know if anyone saw that or not. But one of the great lines in that was there was a guy that was selling refrigerators, the first refrigerator units ever. And they're like, why would we need that? We're just going to hunt the food that we need to eat in the next 3 days. We don't need to keep it for longer. But now if we get this refrigerator, we have to pay you a utility bill and electricity for something that we didn't have before. We're just enslaving ourselves to you by letting go our way of life and adopting the one that you want us to have because it's more convenient for you, for us to have that lifestyle. And then they just laughed and walked away from the guy. It's like, there's no reason for us to ever have a refrigerator. That's stupid. And we live on the range. We hunt our food. But people that live in a city need a refrigerator because they can't go hunt for food. Otherwise, they have to go to the grocery store every day. And although that's quaint, it's not necessarily convenient. That's a difference. Like the Cowboys, they didn't get it because their paradigm was old. It was 1800s paradigm that they still lived inside of. But as technology progresses, you're removing yourself from that process over time. And I just think that perhaps sculpting may have been that. We will never know for sure, but it could be that the people that were doing those sculptures had been doing nothing but sculpting their entire life. Like that was their purpose, was to become damn good sculptors. And they had a society that appreciated and supported that because there needed to be people that were capable of performing that craft. And the more you excelled at it, the more you would be elevated to a position of respect by becoming like a noble, like becoming like the emperor's potter or something. You'd think there would be documents about that thing. So I don't know if this is accurate or not, but if there are like ancient Egyptian, ancient Sumerian, ancient Chinese documentation about an artist class that were like the emperor's potter, the emperor's painter, the emperor's whatever. Like if those are roles that are documented and exist, I might actually be right. But of course, I don't know. I don't know what that documentation is. The researching that stuff in itself is a level of system mastery that I am not privy to. That is not my profession. That is researching that stuff requires a depth of access and knowledge to even research it and understand it in the first place that is beyond my own personal capability, because I haven't been trained on any of that stuff and requires training. It's so hyper specialized. But that level of hyper specialization may have existed in the quote unquote old world. We just aren't capable of acknowledging, like Dune, for example. Dune was awesome because they outlined thinking machines. So the way to protect themselves was by having living computers. The Mentats were living computers capable of doing these incredibly complicated algorithms in their head, being able to calculate out incredible probabilities on things. It could well be that we had a culture that embraced that Mentat philosophy, that capability, and that we just eventually replaced it with machines. That in the lore of Dune, we as a species had to rediscover it because we tried this clever thing and it exterminated us as a result of it. So we had to go back to our old original roots. Just a thought. Now these are doors that are designed to swing open like this. So you have all this room here to be able to open up and then have things come out. So when I'm designing this frame, I have to think about that opening door as a design limitation for the art that I'm creating here. I suspect I am almost out of time. Yeah, I've got a minute to go. 2 minutes. maybe I want to do it like this. Let's just do it like that. There we go. Like that? Nah. All right. Well, hey, that's a good spot. That's as good a spot as any for us to stop for the day. So we'll go ahead and put this on hold. When we come back, we'll be able to finish up this lattice, and then we'll have to put in some floorboards, and then the eyes, and the front. So most of this stuff is going to be now that this is what we're into. It shouldn't take much longer for us to get this resolved. So there's that, and this. So this is what the fuselage looks like. So we can just duplicate, like we can pluck these and put them in the proper position. Like I could. I bet this is broken up into like a dozen different things. Yep. All right, so that's it for now. I'm going to be back in about 5 hours to continue working on the different types of magic based on the class that your character is playing for the Eberron thing that we're doing. I like this. This is coming along nicely. This is going to be really fucking cool when it's done. So, yeah, like, subscribe, hit the bell icon, get notifications when I'm live in the future. We'll be back later on today. I'll be back tomorrow morning to continue working on this and hopefully have it finished by tomorrow. If not, by Thursday for sure. Off screen, we're doing all the page stuff that's boring to watch, so I don't waste your time with it. But you'll see the end result for sure once it publishes. Coco, thanks for keeping me company. And anyone else that's out there, you're always welcome to give me a shout, either in the comments down below or find me on Discord through my Patreon, which you can access at no cost. So I will be here on the other side. Hope to see you there too. Laters.